Good afternoon. At this time, I call the our Board of Education meeting to order. I would like the Delamaina for our invocation, please.
Let us pray. Thank you, Lord, for everything that's good in our lives. We pray God's holy name. We have mercy and blessings upon our whole country, family. Keep them safe from the bars, from them to sin and unseen. Keep them safe from the evil one and evil doers of the world, Lord. We ask that you place people in our lives, in their lives, and in the nation's lives, that will lead us and guide you by God's will. From the local courthouses to the state and national levels, we want to pray. We have healing of our world. Bless our military men and women, men and women in blue, all over the world. Again, we thank you, Lord God Almighty, for everything that's good in our lives. So we know, Lord, you know our names, you know our needs, and you are more than able to provide everything that we need, Jesus. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we humbly pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. We will continue with our agenda, which next we have is the chairman's report. I don't particularly have a chairman's report this afternoon, but I would just like to say that thank you to all of those that are in attendance, to our administration and our staff and all of our support staff that we have for the outstanding support that you are giving our students under the circumstances that we are in at this time. Thank you all for what you are doing. We will continue with the approval of the amended agenda that we have before us. And may I get a motion to accept this agenda, amended agenda that we have before us?
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda for August 8th, 2020. December 8th.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Richard and seconded by Mr. Maynard that we approve the amended agenda that we have before us tonight. Are there any questions? If none, all in favor, let me know by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Next, we have our spotlight on success, and at this time, I will turn it over to our superintendent, Dr. Williamson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members. We have two items on spotlight for success tonight. Once again, we've listed Selena Edwards, who is local health department director and was North Carolina Health Department Director of the Year. We just want to call her name again for her work and support of our efforts to be back in school. Anything you want to add to that? I know you're talking daily with Ms. Edwards.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we are just delighted to have that collaborative partnership with Polk County Health Department. Our health director, Ms. Selena Edwards, she has just been outstanding. We talked several times during the week in terms of providing updates. They have on the agenda now, we'll know in the next couple of weeks with the rapid testing that the health department, they're waiting for their equipment to be approved. And so that's going to be available to us in Polk County. And they're also working on coordinating testing as well to be able to offer testing to the residents here in Polk County. So we just applaud them for the work that they're doing and helping us to maintain the right path as we work through this or work in this.
So again, we just want to recognize Ms. Edwards for her work and her support. The rapid response will be a one-day turnaround.
Yes, sir.
So that's going to be important for our students. And then item number 2 is the bulletin board at the board this month, Westfield Elementary. Madam Chairman and members, that concludes our spotlight on success. I will add, if you have not had a chance, if you go to Channel 5 News, they ran an article or piece today on Blackfish Hope Elementary, the Golden Knights landed here in the Navajo. Talked with a couple of teachers and some students. So and go on their site and see that. Then to get the news there in a positive way.
Oh, good. Okay. Next on our agenda then is our consent agenda that we have before us, and all of you have had an opportunity to read that information this week. Are there any questions concerning any of the items that we have here on our consent agenda? If none, then may we get approval to accept the items that we have.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda, tonight.
Second.
Been moved in second that we approve our consent agenda. Are there any questions concerning it? If none, all in favor of it, let it be known by the sign of aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, so our consent agenda has been approved. Next is our administration, and Dr. Williamson, we'll turn it over to you for administration.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members. We do have 5 items for information items for tonight. Information item number 1 is our 10-day report in terms of membership. Let me ask Dr. Hunt if you will come and share that information with the board, and hope you have that filled up on the page.
Good evening. I hope everybody's doing well this evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. The image that you have does a comparison of the first 10 days of school. The chart at the very top should be this year's information, so where we were making a comparison of 2019 to 2020. And then the bottom chart is the 2018-19 school year, just so that you could see where we were a year ago. So at this time, about a year ago, I think that we were probably about 100 students less, if I remember correctly, or I think it was like 93, 97, somewhere on there. But when we look at it for this particular year, we are 200 students different than where we were last year. So that means that somewhere along the way, we lost about 200 students in between June and August. So when we scroll over, let me try to scroll over. So when we scrolled over and looked, we did the withdrawal dates, well, not the withdrawal dates, but how many students were actually withdrawn from each individual school within the first 10 days of school. Whenever we did that, there's roughly 869 students that withdrew in between July the 6th and somewhere within the first 10 days of school. To go along with that, there was about overall across the district, 142 students who did not show up for school at all within the first 10 days. Typically what happens is those students do tend to come back after the holiday weekend that we just have. And whenever I ran the numbers today, about 65 more students had enrolled today. So we are receiving some of those students back. And those numbers will continue to increase throughout the school week. We lost 64 students to homeschool over the past summer. So in between July and the first 10 days of school this year, 64 students withdrew to be homeschooled by their parents. And then because Alpha Academy is the closest charter school to us, and we do usually lose some students to go to Alpha Academy in the summer, I just ran that report, those numbers, to see how many students actually left us to go there. There was 22 students across the district. And typically what ends up happening is that somewhere within, historically speaking, after the first 10 days of school, we typically get some of those students who went to Alpha Academy to come back to us. So within those 65, I would say that it's safe to say that some of those students that have already started to transition. 200 students subtract the 65 will give us about 135 students that we are currently missing at the moment. Like I said, roughly during this week, we'll continue to have some more enrollments throughout this year, which will increase our numbers for total enrollment. I think that the last time that I looked, we were roughly at about 8,760 some, 69 students, I want to say, currently enrolled. So the numbers are increasing. And with that information, do you have any questions about our current enrollment status?
Let me ask one thing. Our planning allotment.
Our ADM was based on 9,041 students. And currently, normally in the history, is when we look after the second month, if our ADM had gone down, we would lose either positions or dollar allotments. This year, they've decided to maintain us at our planning allotment, so we won't lose anything by our numbers being down this week.
Chad, let me ask you, what do you think, just guessing, why did we lose some students to just be homeschooled as opposed to being in the public school but homeschooled? You understand what I'm saying?
I do. I think that honestly, from a parent's perspective, is that really what we are experiencing with our Hope County Schools Online program is very similar to what those parents would be doing for homeschooling anyway.
Right.
So I think that it was the perception of the parents saying that, well, I can do this on my own versus trying to support the teachers in what we are already doing in the district, and those parents helping in that kind of way. Because at home I have a daughter who's on the online program, so basically I'm working 2 jobs. So whenever I get home, I'm working with her to make sure that she's understanding and able to really be where she needs to be at, especially in 8th grade with Math 1. That's a lot of hard work in its own.
Yeah.
But I think it was just the perspective of those parents.
The virus has had an impact on the mindset.
Yeah.
Of the folks in question. We've always had a large homeschool population, a lot tied to the military. They've always homeschooled, and so those kids never show up. Between charter school, homeschool, private school, we have about 1,000 kids served in those venues. So we're pretty constant with that. What that 207 does not represent is our pre-K. That's a different fund source. The K-12 is state allocation. Dr. Dallas, where are we on our pre-K students? I talked with Liz last week. We're pretty good shape, a little bit over half.
Exactly. Some of our schools are completely filled with our 18 or 36, depending how many classes. We have a couple schools right now that we're trying. West Oak Elementary and Hawkeye would be our 2 schools right now that we're still adding some students. We're still taking applications and trying to place kids, but many of our other schools are completely full at this point. So Ms. Mitchell has done an amazing job connecting with parents and constantly taking applications to try to place kids. We're in real good shape comparative to other districts in the state.
And Liz go knock on the door.
She will.
She fine. Any other questions on that? So at the end of the day, we're gonna be hearing comments on that 9041. So we won't lose any dollars this year.
Thank you.
Information item number 2 is our Polk County School preliminary report. The report was in suspension for 2019-2020. As you're aware, that report runs a year behind. So Dr. Owens, if you come and share the good news. I see a lot of zeros, that's always good.
Okay, so good evening again to everyone. So what you have before you is our preliminary discipline report for 2019-20. And so basically what we have provided for you with our reportables these are the reportables along with our suspensions. And so we have provided 3-year reports. So if you were to look at our current year with our reportables, you can tell that we have had a decrease and we've had some fluctuating numbers for our discipline report. So for this year in particular, if you take a look, we had 2 bomb threats. And of course, that's kind of an interesting history behind that in terms of it was elementary school and really, I think the students, Mr. Edwards probably can speak a little bit more on it, but they really didn't mean what they were saying, but we had to take some action and those were short-term suspension on those students. You can see as it relates to the alcoholic beverage, that's an increase over last year. Looking at our controlled substances, those have stayed the same. When we look at no firearms reported last year, a decrease in the possession of weapons, of course, no rape, robbery, or assault that was reported this last school year. So those are our reportables. Do you have any questions on the reportables?
Looks good.
So next, our suspension. Oh, I'm sorry.
Controlled substance, I noticed it went down from 2017, but is that normal? Is that a high number?
Well, actually, the 23 has gone down. If you can see over the years,
Yeah, I
we've had
saw
an
that.
increase. So, you know, we're working on those, working with young people. Most of those are students who have been caught with marijuana. And so we do try and provide support for those young people as well.
And how do you actually catch them?
Well, the high school principal here, maybe I need to refer to him. Some have, or Mr. Edwards, you want to, as a former high school principal, actually, Ms. Bowie and you. Are they in the bathroom?
I remember a young man, somebody had dropped a joint or something, and he picked it up to show somebody, but he got in trouble. So that was a reportable, 'cause, you know, remember that? Oh, okay. He got in
That
trouble.
was some years ago, right?
Yeah.
And they were appealing.
Exactly, yeah.
In the bathroom?
And other students tell,
So that's right.
students will tell.
Students tell them. You want to add something?
But you know, the best source of information are students.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
Each other, and we'll come to the administrator and report. I mean, and that's just amazing how they really do that. And then I think Ms. Richard said the smell.
Smell, that's
As
right.
much as while you walk in the bathroom, and there you go, just a combination. You know, kids are struggling with legalization of marijuana, and a lot of
Right.
homes are.
Yeah.
And so that comes with, as it applies to our schools, it violates one of our policies. The kids do an excellent job of policing and helping us out.
Dr. Baldwin.
Because they still want to show off.
Yeah.
You know, they think they're going to get away with it. But like Dr. Wilson said, you know, our young people, you know, they report and they protect each other as best they can.
These are not all high school students.
No, we are seeing an increase in middle school students. We've
Yeah.
seen.
Has it ever been,
Yeah.
like, used for, medical reasons? Not smoking, but.
No, to my not, no, ma'am, we haven't.
I mean, even the excuse.
And we've had that as a-
Well, that may have been an excuse.
Yeah, okay.
They were now 4,000 students, here, 23.
That's a good, that's a
Yeah,
good number.
it is.
That's a good number.
Okay, and so then we have our suspension report before you, as you can see, in terms of the number of bullying that was reported for the 2019-20 school year, our in-school suspensions, our short-term, and of course, we had no long-term suspensions this year. And,
Hey, can I say something?
yes, sir.
We have to notice from 2015-16, short-term 1487, plus not reported on the in-school suspensions, that's dealt by principal, that 1487 is probably reflected in that number. So you're looking at 2,800 kids that we dealt with in the in-school or out of school. But look where that number is now. That's a combination of things that's going on. You're going to see in a minute the graduation rate, how it's going up. The MTSS is really where we work with teachers to change their behavior and say, don't back this kid in the corner. What you think's going to happen when you push this kid to that point? So those kinds of things. But that's an amazing story. Take his office in terms of guidance working and social workers and building relationships with kids. But that's
Relationship matters.
it does really changed a lot.
Any questions? So we are proud to present this preliminary report to you, which will appear on the report card when it's released. Later. Any additional questions?
Very good.
And again, I just point out no explosions. We try to stay away from them. They have some other options and we're taking advantage of that. The one long term had to be a weapon. That's what that was. Back in 1819. So again, MTSS and all those components really making a difference. But what's really making a difference is the relationship between our staffs and our students and homes and parents. It's stronger than it's ever been.
Have you seen a major decrease in sending students to Turleton? Have you seen a decrease there?
Yes, yes, I would say so, that we are working with the high school and Turlington. I think in terms of weeding out to ensure, but also Turlington is an alternative for us as well. So, you know, the state made that mandate a few years ago. So those students are not suspended. They are transferred over into Turlington as an option for their education so that we're not suspending students. So that has helped us also in terms of reducing our suspensions.
But Ms. Baker, also on that question, you know what we noticed for the last couple of years? One, we have more kids requesting to go to Turlington than we've ever had before. And then when we implement a behavior contract, most of the kids that end up going is because they violated that behavior contract. We noticed that basis and kids are not, doing some of these other things. It's a violation of their behavior contract. So yes, we've seen a decrease, but we've seen an increase in a request from parents and kids to go to Turlington for that small setting.
Oh,
They like that small setting.
Someone would want to add anything? I know this is what we're saying, most of the violation of behavior contract.
Yes, sir. Some kids just can't handle
the large.
the magnitude.
That's true.
of those guys. They try, but it's too much freedom.
Yeah.
They realize,
Yeah.
the parents realize, they come back and try for a while. And just cannot make it in class. So I think about 10 or 12 times, it's not little thing that you catch up. Very few go with attitude.
Okay.
Very few.
And I think, throughout the years, Dr. Baldwin and Mr. Brewington, they have a really good working relationship. And then the staff, that we have for support staff working together from the high school as servicing the students as well as our middle school as well. So really
If I
have
can
a
add, one
coordinated
thing that
effort.
really helps is trusting the process.
Yeah.
Because on any given day, an administrator can have a bad day, make a bad decision. And before you know it, we didn't put the hammer to it. But the process is in place in case we overstep our bounds or understep it. There's a check and balance with the hearing officer and of course with all of that, behavior contract. That has deterred so many behaviors, so many severe consequences.
Very good. Thank you.
Item number 3, 4, and 3 is an update from Dr. Ramsey on cybersecurity. We've been reading in the news where the school system, they were hostage by folks. Just want to update you on where you are with that.
Okay, so we know that cybersecurity is one of those topics that is, what Dr. Williamson mentioned, a topic that has been talked about. And we had a conversation before about school systems being targeted. People are, in fact, I got an email this weekend from an administrator that got email asking me to give money. And it was from a principal, but it really wasn't from that
Right.
principal. But you guys, we talked about that before. So we know that there are issues that are going on. People are targeting education in general. When we think of cybersecurity, a lot of times we also think about our network and people getting in to our network. And we want to keep everyone safe. We want to keep student data safe. And we don't want anyone to hold us hostage for information that we need. So it's constantly evolving. We are constantly working to keep hackers out, anybody who has malicious intent, all while they're constantly trying to work to get past our security measures, right? So it doesn't matter whether or not, we have a plan because they're always trying to get ahead of us. That's their job. These people are in full-time job to figure out how to get around the things that we have in place. So MCNC in the spring, they provide a network security assessment. It's funny because I just got an email today from BPI that said, effective today, that every district has to go through a network security assessment. And we did that in the spring. I've already put an email out saying, hey, we just did this, we need to do it again, because they're saying everybody has to sign up for this by September 18th, because the state realizes this is such an issue. And because our assessment is only a few months old, I'm not sure we'll have to go through it again because we have some things that we're working on. They made some suggestions to us. They said, hey, make sure that you have certain ports closed and the firewall, making sure that hackers, the ones that hackers typically use to get in, making sure we don't have admin access to computers. And we've taken that away several years ago. People can't download information onto the computer. And the reason for that is as you download stuff, you may download something that's unintentional that someone can actually download, like a Trojan horse or some type of malicious virus. We limit software installs. We have an approval process that someone wants to install, and we make sure that is reliable software before we install on computers. And we are currently working on a disaster recovery plan. So if in the event something happens and we're hit with some type of virus, and it completely just takes down our entire network, how long will it take us to build back up, right? And what will we do from the ground up? So we're working on a disaster recovery plan. Never happened, but we're working on a plan just in case, worst case scenario. Some backup, we have reviewed our backup protocols. Link and MealPlus are our two biggest vendors, and they have our biggest data storage. So we back those up off site by a third-party vendor. Those are backed up there. And those backups are actually done multiple times throughout the day, just different times, so random times, at least 4 times a day. And we back up all our major servers. So that said, again, the state has said once again, we know this is a really, really big thing. Even before the email I got today, they said we're going to put some money on this. And they've never put money with this before, but again, they recognize that school systems are really, truly becoming targets. More school systems are having ransom or being hostage for information. And so there's just so many different ways systems can get hit. So recently, the state has allocated about $20,000 for us to use for cybersecurity. We've already been in touch with some vendors about what types of things that we might use that $20,000 on, which honestly, $20,000 is a drop in the bucket to talk about security, but it's a start. So one of the things we looked at, because we don't have somebody who's sitting at a screen 24/7 watching for if someone's trying to get into our network, we talked about possibly looking at an intrusion detection system, in which case somebody else, a third party, is monitoring if they see any type of activity that looks suspicious. We're looking at antivirus and malware clients, different things that we can use to shore up our perimeter to make sure people can't actually get into the network. And so we've got a couple of folks that we're waiting to get some information back from that. But just know that we are continuing to work on how do we protect our district, our students, information, but also know that as much as someone might say, are we safe? Well, we're as safe as we are today, because tomorrow, middle school or some high school, 13-year-old student might start taking a thing. And a 13-year-old student is just that brilliant that we need to have to come work for us, but they can do things like that. They're very determined. And it's like almost a video game for them, right? When you think about it, it's like, how do I get around? And so we have very talented children and adults out there, but we are working very hard to make sure that entry, without compromising instruction, that's always the payoff, to make sure that teachers and students can get what they need, but also protecting.
Oh, okay. So, I received an email, and this is at Santos Community College, about 2 weeks ago from our executive vice president, Brenda Jackson, saying, Rosa, I need you to get in touch with me, and something, and I don't ever get an email from Brenda Jackson. So I'm looking at the email and looking at the email address, and it's saying, I need you to do so and so and so and so. Anyway, I just called, right? So she's out on vacation. And so, but she calls me back, and I didn't get it. I got a message saying, Rosa, I'm on vacation, but if you need me, and so I'm like, well, what was that? Anyway, the other counselor, he clicked on the link, right? And he's new, and but he's about a year old there, and it said the same thing, but I knew that this didn't sound right, and it didn't look like her email address. So I went to our website to look at her email address, and I compared them, and it wasn't. It was one letter off. It was one letter off, and then, but he clicked on it, and then it said, meet me at the store. I need you to bring me like 3 gift cards.
That's a
Yeah.
common one. We charge a lot of them are you available? I'm in a meeting.
Yeah.
I can't sit out of a meeting right now. Can you go get these gift cards?
Yeah, something like
That
that.
is a classic, and that's going around. We've seen it circulate. That one circulated again this weekend, and unfortunately somebody got duped on it.
Got duped, yeah.
But that is a common one. And there are indicators. One of the other things the state is doing, I'm glad that you brought that up, because one of the pieces, and we try to educate all of our staff, but one of the things that the state is doing, they're actually going to enroll all of the districts into, there's a third party that does some type of education on cybersecurity, and they go through courses and things of that nature. They're going to be purchasing that for all districts, because they realize most of these things happen when somebody unwittingly lets them in, right? They click on a link, they download something. So essentially, one of the biggest things that we can do is educate everyone, so that we don't give them access. And so that's another piece that we have. Any questions?
So we limited, like, I know a couple of systems, the problem is they have so much stuff going on from home, and that's how folks got in. And so we locked that down, that we're gonna do that. You open yourself up when you allow that to happen. It's in everybody to work from home into the system.
Right, and one of those things is also those folks have access to, when they come from home, they bring whatever from home, any bug and stuff they picked up from home, they bring it into our network, and they essentially release it to our network. And so we don't allow that kind of traffic into our network. Again, not to say that somebody can't, I'll never say what someone can't do, but we work really, really hard to
Once these people get in, they lock up their file.
yes,
And then they say, well, we want $100,000 and we'll unlock the file.
that's right.
And they can do it.
Again, 13-year-old locked down on the largest school system. 13 locked them down. He had to let them back in.
And sometimes you might get, you give them money, you might get it, you might not. I mean, there's no guarantee you pay the ransom, which is why it's so important for us to have backup, because if someone says I have your data, we should be able to say, well, that's okay, yeah. Right. That's why that backup is so good.
Don, I do want to recognize you and your staff. You did an outstanding job for us, keeping us safe. Constantly asking you, had any attacks, I know one day in finance, you see it all the time. It looks legit, it's off one level, and folks unsuspecting send the information. So this constant round the clock, pay attention. With your alerts and your firewalls and stuff, that's an outstanding for us. Eventually, we figure all that out.
They're working hard, they're working hard.
Dawn, how does this tie into FERPA, if at all? If they get our records, are they getting students' records? So then,
Which is why it's really important that we do it.
okay.
I mean, most of the time, if for some reason something got into our records, that, we don't want that, because they
Right.
have access to the information. We don't want that.
Right.
We don't want that. But the other piece of that is, we also not gonna keep it, that, if you have to pay, if you don't have, and you don't have access to it, you not only want it, you don't want it out there, you also don't
Well,
need it
right.
to be able to,
Okay.
move forward. So we don't want it out there at all.
Thank you.
Anything else? And yeah, you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Yes. I do.
Next item is our graduation rate for 2020. National Register, if you come and share. Good news.
Great news.
Awesome news.
Good evening.
Good
I'm about to
evening.
stand here or stand at the podium.
And where you want to stand? Where you want to?
I was gonna say, good evening. I missed you.
We missed you too.
Missed me back. Okay,
Yeah,
good,
we
good,
missed you
good. I'm
too.
glad we're back. I'm glad we are together again. What we're gonna do, we're just gonna talk about how we are meeting high expectations. And we just want to take you on a graduation journey, looking over a 14-year period.
The second slide has produced a timeline of before 1 year prior to Dr. Williamson being hired and across his journey as superintendent through his leadership for Hope County Schools. That baseline year, Dr. Williamson, Hope County Schools was at 47.1% of 2005-2006. Since then, we are happy to say that we have met those high expectations that Dr. Williamson has put into place and increased our graduation rate each year. And across each year from 2007, 2008, up until this past school year, it's been about on average an increase of 3 percentage points each year. Just to show you some snapshots and then leading into the next couple of slides, Dr. Register will be talking about some of the strategies that have been put into place. But the first year under Dr. Williamson's leadership, we increased by 10 percentage points, 18 percentage points, close to 20 percentage points over the journey of those first 4 years. In 2011 to 2015, you're looking at about 5 percentage points across those 5 years. In 16 to 2020, 8 percentage points across those 5 years. And now currently, we are still trying to meet those expectations that Dr. Williamson does share out each year. In his words and across his office, he has leadership matters and relationship matter. And truly that has really set a precedence across our district because the collaboration, communication that we are able to have across departments, across the schools with the school's leadership. Without that ability to communicate and collaborate, this wouldn't be able to be achieved. So we are still on that journey of graduating students that are college, career, and life ready. So across the 14-year period, just in Hope County Schools alone, we've increased 40.5 percentage points from that 2006-2007 year. The state has increased 19.3 percentage points. So Hope County Schools across those 14 years, we basically doubled what the state has done, which says a lot about Hope County, where we've been and where we're continuing to go to. So at this time, Dr. Register is going to share strategies that have been put into place that captures the attention of the students and their engagement to help get them to this place.
Now, I do want to say over these 14 years, I could not possibly name all the strategies and all the hard work that we've done to get us at this point. But I do want to capture some of the main critical things or strategies that we have implemented over the years. So here, when we look at our first, and I broke it up into 5-year kind of increments. So, 2005, 2006 will be our baseline year at the 47.1. And then you all hired a new superintendent in 2006, 2007. And from there, the journey began. So if y'all don't know if you remember, that the superintendent forged a strong partnership with SREB. And through that partnership, we implemented How Schools That Work, that model. And that whole focus we had was really a literacy academy for teachers. For the next 4 years, our main focus there was changing mindsets, ensuring that everyone understood that all teachers were teachers of literacy. So that was the main focus. Some other strategies that was implemented for the graduation was the InStep program, and that was through our support services department. And then we looked at revising and implementing an EC or exceptional children inclusion model within those 4 years. We also transitioned, started using Apex Learning Program, and also established a Hope County School Transition Center for our EL and migrant families. So those are just some of the major accomplishments during that time period. But literacy was the main focus there. So then we moved toward the next 5 years, and the focus there was really looking at processes and procedures. Really looking at our EC program, what are those processes and procedures, ensuring that we have equity there in that program. AIG, how are we identifying our AIG students to ensure that it reflects our schools? And then also looking at our EL program and all of those practices. You can see during this next 5 years, Dr. Williamson really went in to revise a lot of roles because we learned that there was some blind spots. So therefore, we wanted to kind of perfect what we were doing. We had to ensure that everybody is going to be effective in their role. So you can see some of those revisions. We implemented the LDC, MDC model, still working with SREB. Also, we have the Hope County High School Evening Academy that was established. And then we hired the CTE coordinators that help with our push in terms of college and career ready, that alignment K-12. And then I do want to add that our PBIS, positive behavior intervention. And then for the last 5 years, you can see we're at where we are now for the 2019-20 school year at 87.6. And so for the past 5 years, we really focused in realigning to ensure that the classes that we offer align to the job market. And you can see that in our CTE when we talk about firefighting, when we look at the CPT, EMT, all of those different programs that we offer. We really expanded our partnership with the Sand Hills Community College. For these past 5 years, our focus is all about making sure that our students have a competitive advantage whenever they leave high school. Do our students have the opportunity to have a competitive advantage? And so we're doing all these things to ensure that. And you can see where the last three bullets said it's an ongoing process in terms of focusing on STEM related careers, training teachers, when we're looking at project-based learning, when we look at the powerful literacy and math practices. And then a big one also with enrolling all our 8th graders in Math 1. So that allows them to go into high school with at least one high school credit. So they have that graduation credit completed once they, even before they enter high school. So we're just pleased to have the overall 87.6%, and those are just a few of the strategies that we have done throughout our journey over the past 14 years. Then if you,
Mr. Can I
yes,
add,
sir.
as you looked at that list, you recognize that you voted to improve everything needed beyond that. That's the importance of your support for the work that we're trying to do. And this is a short list of what we
Yeah.
asked you to approve. You did approve, and then allow us to work through the outcomes. So thank you.
You're the. These folks.
Yeah,
Yes,
your decision.
thank you.
Yes, yes.
Hired
We just-
Roger Edwards and Dr. Paul. Make a difference.
You all vote.
That is true.
And Bob
We're
Barnes.
closer to that night in that room.
Yeah.
Yes, no. You make a valid point. Dr. Baldwin has really grown in his understanding about all this. Because if you're a principal of a high school this size,
You gotta have that.
understand graduation rate, and cohort group. One of the things that he does every year is he tells freshmen how many days, how many hours you have before you graduate. You know, that's important if we do that. And then Roger did spend a lot of time going back in and pulling kids and working in terms of Apex for all those components.
Even in
But
academy.
again, I say to
Yes.
you, and I'm honest, just being truthful, we could never go any further than that night of the board meeting. Whatever we were asking you to approve, without your approval, we didn't go anything. With your approval, it's what we're talking about tonight. So that's important. We appreciate it.
Teamwork.
Well,
I just want to make sure that I read this correctly. Are we exactly there with the state now?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what I.
Exactly. And I would like for Dr. Baldwin to say a few words in terms of the work that he has put in his staff for us to reach this milestone.
Yes, when I was looking at the presentation, I was happy to be an AP for like, I don't know, forever seemed like. But I got so much training that you didn't realize you was getting. And the biggest thing I saw that we try to implement is consistency. And that's consistency from the board, consistency from Dr. Williams and the leadership team, the amount of monitoring that comes in play. So when you take all of that and with the tool that Mr. Ellis gives you take all of that and put it together, it works with a good staff. So you take all of that and just be consistent with the staff, with Dr. Owens and her guidance department. All the things I watched for 7, 8 years got to come to light these last couple of years because I've had good mentorship, good training, and the consistency from the board. It's funny when I hear other people talk about what they have to go through. I was like, well, we don't have to worry about none of that. But that's the biggest thing, the consistency and the monitoring piece. Dr. Williams said, one of the things he says is, I'd rather invest in people than program. So I've always stuck that in the back of my head and said, if I invest in people, then it's not worth the program. The people, those good people are made sure, as long as I'm consistent, as long as I'm monitoring, those are all the things I watch without having a proper educational term to go with it. So we put those things in place. One of the things that we do is we guidance. We try to develop things that are always going to make kids want to come to school or desire to stay in school. Keep some, give them the ability to dream. And that allowed me, I saw that from me going through my experience. So it has been a great ride. And kids, it's only going to get better. One of the things we're doing now, we're going to do it this Friday. Like we're going to pull all transcripts and all schedule to start the process. I'm kind of disappointed. I was telling Dr. Williams, I'm kind of disappointed COVID came through because our 85% is a true 85%. It ain't fudge. It ain't because we went to 22 credits. It's because we had kids prepared to graduate. So I'm excited now because we got a bunch of low-hanging fruit out, and now we got some more kids coming through. But thank you to the board for giving us the opportunity. It is a big deal. We don't have to go through half the drum I have most high school programs have to go through.
Catherine, for perhaps do an article.
We did, we submitted one, to her early this morning, 'cause I contacted her last week. And she was saying that, because of the news, the holidays, she was submitted, she will put it in the paper next week. So we
Yeah,
submitted
yeah.
the article to her this morning.
Success is contagious.
Yeah.
You know, when my partner and my classmate's gonna graduate, hey, I'm not gonna be the only one that's gonna graduate now. I'm gonna go with them, and I think that helps a lot.
All right. So we appreciate you, Dr. Baldwin. I don't know if you want to say anything, Mr. Edwards, because you help contribute
I
to
think
this as well.
This is evidence of this, as you can see, it K through, all the way through high school. So, in olden times, high school was always working from behind, trying to catch back up people who were behind grade level. Now we're having more and more and more and more and more students enter high school because of what's happening in the lower grade levels that are on grade level. And that means that they are in more rigorous courses than ever before, because we opened up and enrolling in the AP and honors courses as open enrollment. And so I think the rigor of the academics and making sure that Dr. Baldwin's team is doing that, you're proactive, you don't let people fall behind. And I think those are just keep increasing.
Yeah, I say the same thing, and, you know, from the beginning, it starts with Dr. Williamson, because when he came here, he knew all about Hope County. He really did his homework. Dr. Williamson, you know what I'm talking about. You know all about Hope County. You knew the strengths and you knew the weaknesses. And you had a vision. And whenever you came in, you did a lot of hard things because, you know, a lot of people, you know, you had to play. And you surrounded yourself with a team of leaders. All these leaders out here. And they performed. They shared your vision and they went on the mission. And it started from grade 1, you know. So we thank all of you all, everyone that's in here. Because when you can honestly say, in 2006, or 5 or 6, when at Polk County High School, it was just embarrassing to say our graduation rate was 45. You know, that now, you know, this is my home. And to say this about my high school, it was painful. But now to say, hey, look where we came from 45 when we started in 06, and now we're 87. Someone had to care about this system. This is a poor system that Rayford, North Carolina, that no one knew this on the map. Where is Rayford? Well, you know where Fort Bragg, you know, Fairwood, well, we're next door. No one knew us, but now they know. They know where Rayford is. And it's because of the hard work, the dedication that Dr. Williamson had, and the confidence that he placed in you all, and the work that you all have done. Now, I'll just say that, the work that you all have done. I just hope you never leave Hope County when I'm gone. I just hope y'all see it here. And because you have done an outstanding job. And just thank God too for the board, because, you know, we had to go to workshops too, like y'all. And we had to go to 101. And they told us what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do. But you got a lot of board members are doing a lot of things they're not supposed to do, because I tell somebody, you know, anybody I talk to, listen, we hire one person at Dr. Williamson. We don't hire anybody else in Hope County School. We don't even try to. And we don't tell you what to do on a daily basis. But we know Dr. Williamson, he's gonna do what he's supposed to do. We look to him. And Dr. Williamson does the other thing, but we don't try to tell you all what to do and not to do, and like a lot of other boards do. Because we know, we know where we are supposed to be. We know our lane, and we're not supposed to cross over. You see, and a lot of people do. So I said, you are the one with the knowledge. You know what to do for day to day. So we say do it. It sounds good and make us look good today to say 87% graduation.
Yes.
And
We
just
greatly appreciate you.
thank God.
appreciate
we
you
just
all.
say thank God for all of you, because you're believers and you love our children and you love our parents and you know where they are.
The next sheet's an important sheet, when you take a look at the subgroups, just those numbers are incredible. Again, come back to the board. Roger, you and I know it, and Shannon, for instance, you approved Tony Hunt, for the board, talking about Native American population group. That graduation rate is higher than it's ever been.
Really?
Yes.
Higher than it's ever been.
Look at that. That's nice.
That's right.
This is really nice.
Closing that achievement gap.
Mhm.
When you do look at the subgroups, also, I think that there are two areas in which we're tied with North Carolina. That's all students and then our academically gifted students. There are 5 areas of subgroups in which we are hired in North Carolina, and then at least 4 subgroups where we are right there with North Carolina, but trailing behind them slightly. So we do recognize that there is always areas in which we can improve, and we're always working towards that goal as well.
That is not the chart that we have, so you may want to make sure
We
that
included that.
get that.
Yes, and we just updated this chart when we came in this evening.
It is.
Oh, American.
One of the big
You see, you got it,
decisions that we
Rosa, right
made,
here.
One of the big decisions
You got
was not to eliminate pre-K.
You got on
There's
your
a
right.
lot of LEAs didn't want to work on pre-K and.
Cross
had
it over.
opportunity to
Can
get
you-
out, and they
Can
did.
you spread it over?
We didn't do that, and that's making a
Oh.
difference.
You sure don't.
This slide where we compare ourselves against neighboring benchmark districts or benchmark districts across the state who have similar demographics as we do. Again, as you can see with North Carolina, we are tied with the state at 87.6%. I think there's a total of about 16 LEAs here. And in that, if we had to rank these from the highest graduation rate to the lowest, Hope County schools would be number 5 in the chart. So that means that everybody else, we have 4 different LEAs who are above us. That's above 87.6%, and then everybody else is behind. But again, if we had to rank it, we'd be number 5 on the list right now
Oh, good.
for last year's current rate.
This is good.
Yes.
Well, I think we're in front already because our 87.6 represent 28 weeks. Rather than what the state would allow the minimum of 22. We believe those 6 additional classes give me because the upper level classes, math, science, that really prepare them to be ready. So that represents true, no funny math, because we could have done the funny math and graduated half the kids at 22, because we have that option. We've held everybody to that same standard. So that's a true representation of outcomes.
And if I could, just part of the conversation that we've already had today, as Dr. Baldwin was saying, they're going through it this Friday, beginning to pull transcripts, but that's something that we do as a district, of looking at students with how many credits they've entered in whenever they become seniors. Matter of fact, we pulled the list today and started looking at students with Ms. Fortenberry to identify EO students and how many credits they have versus the 28 that they need to graduate, and begin to brainstorm how we can help those students get back on track if they are behind. Dr. Register pointed out that we use Apex Credit Recovery. We have the CTE courses to engage students, but also too with the Evening Academy, which I've heard many of you say, just some of the amazing stories that come out of those, just those 3 alone, those 3 strategies. So it's really a heartfelt journey, I should say, about helping students to graduate and get where they need to be and want to be.
Any questions or compliments?
Good job. Good job.
Here, he was pointing out right.
A compliment, yes, ma'am. I am too.
Go plan B. I got so many calls from people that I started calling them copycats. Well, you know, Cumberland's not doing it. I got so many calls. I started calling those people copycats. I'm gonna call Susan when I get home and tell her.
You'll have to, you'll have to.
We've always been smart about that.
Oh, exactly.
Come on, bro.
Well,
She
we
came in front of the-
we appreciate it. We appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your support. That's our one information, is a monthly financial report. If you have any questions, finance officer, we'll check it. We're more than happy to answer those for you. Now, Madam Chairman and members, that concludes our information items for tonight.
I saw something. Yeah, me too.
I'm trying to get back.
I have a general question.
Yeah, I was trying to get back where
When
I'm
you
supposed to
started
go.
with no budget and you spent money, you're just waiting for that money, right?
Hey, right here, I'm trying to get back to the. See right,
So did no one donated that? I thought someone donated that board out on the field. On a Rats Archery field, that the electronic board.
Jumbotron,
Yeah.
they gave us 100,000 total.
Oh.
Cost was about 300.
Oh, okay.
And so we showed the other part of it.
Oh, okay.
I can't get back to where I'm supposed to.
Oh. Here we go. We're going into closed session.
Okay, this is our information items now, and we are ready now to go into closed session.